let me know if you can hear me, otherwise they're gonna rig me up with a microphone. But if you can hear me, I'd rather talk normally. So I'm that little Dutch guy that took the finger out of the dike and I made a hole in the water, and you guys all put your money in it. Thank you very much for that. And that's really the way it all started. Born, raised in Holland, during the war, all kinds of things, but not relevant to sailboat making. In the Netherlands, I was pretty well convinced I was going to drive a huge big ship through the waters for the rest of my life. And then I got glasses, that was the end of that one. So I started to work on a shipyard, got in the design office, and that's where I learned my trade, which is shipbuilding, big steel ships. Got drafted in Dutch Navy, whether I liked it or not. They had an idea of buying nuclear submarines for the United States. We're talking about 1960, the Cold War. So they sold the Americans to the to the Dutch Navy the very first computer of any size ever allowed off the North American continent. And guess what? For some reason or other, I walked into that thing. And the problem that they foresaw at the time was, a lot of people left it out in business. They wanted to get people that would stay in the program. The naval officers in those days had a habit of getting a cheap education, graduate the whole thing, say bye-bye Navy, and went into whatever was around. They wanted people that would stay. So they set up a program, and I became part of that, whereby they tried to identify people that once they commit would stay in the Navy and would be nuclear submarine personnel. So, got out of the Navy, shipbuilding industry in Holland, and all to Tokyo and Seoul and all that. So here I'm sitting, what now? I looked at around and there's all these little boats. And I got a job with a designer in the Netherlands. He had been in this for all his life, and he designed light boats, fast boats, and easy-to-build boats. But more important, in those days, this is for most of you people know, in Europe, the racing was done under the RORC rules, Royal Ocean Racing Club. And that favored boats that were heavy, were built to live in racing or not. Whereas in North America, we had the CAA rule, which was a different kind of boat. You lived on it, you went sailing, the weather was much nicer, different feel for the boat. So when I came to Canada in 1967, I came in from a different background with different ideas, but I could see that there was a problem. So I got hired by a guy by the name of George Hinterholler, who was building little shark boats in a greenhouse somewhere around Niagara-on-the-Lake. But he could see that there was a lot more to be built than what he did. And I started to work for him. He said to me, look, I know these people, they call it 2 C's. They have a small outfit, design boats, and they have a very comfortable line of boats. If you want to, I'll introduce you. He did, and that's where he met Big C and Little C. George Capperson was Big C, and George Cassin was Little C. Got a job there in the design office, and in no time flat, I was up to here in work because they had just built a very good boat called Red Jacket, and the work came to them, and they had nobody to do it. Well, that was my job. So, before I knew it, first boat I ever did was the Viking 28, which you may or may not know. That was a design that had been started for a company called Ontario Yachts in Oakville. It was a Dutchman who did it, and that was my first project. And immediately it became apparent that a light boat for the Great Lakes was quite different from the old-fashioned ROC boats that I had been trained off in the Netherlands. So that went actually quite well. Did the drawings, and then George Hinterholler wanted a 28 footer. If you have a C&C 27, I probably can say that that was my first full project from day one. That was my first introduction to the North American market. The design of that thing, you think a designer is some guy with a bright brain and all that. It's a design group that does this kind of stuff. What did I really know about the North American way coming out of Holland of designing a building? Well, in the design office, we worked for George Hinterholler. He was a German prisoner of war, got caught in North Africa, was brought to North America after the war, back to Austria and all that. He's from Austria, out of the mountains, and picked up some boat building skills, came back to North America, and he was, in my opinion, one of the most original thinkers. His shop was perfectly clean, and I mean clean. Friday, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, stop working, paychecks, clean. And there were, out of about 40, 50 people, a couple of favorite ones. They came to his office. He had a big desk, big drawer, this tall. Over there were the 40 milliliter bottles. If you were in the inner group of people, we had a drink together. 6 or 7 that were really all important within the thing. Any problem that had arrived during that week got solved. Friday afternoon, you went home happy. On Monday, the changes were made. Never seen that before. But that was the kind of thinking that was in it. If it's a problem, you deal with it and make sure it worked well. There was another guy there we made designs for. His name was Eric Brockman. Eric Brockman was a furniture maker out of town, in Oakville in Ontario. And he had finished a hull that had been built in Europe, metal, I think it was steel, but he finished it and made a yacht out of it. And he did it a couple of times. And then somewhere along the line, there was a Canadian who says, I would like to have a good boat. I like the way he finished the boat, can he do it? And this Eric Brockman, from making furniture, started building boats. And one of the first ones was Red Jacket, and the Red Jacket, in the year that came out, became by far the best boat around the Great Lakes. And I got in on the tail end. The boat had been around for a year, and everybody wanted a copy. Well, that's not that easy. But I got involved in other projects that people, they want specific boats. There was a company in Belleville. The guy there made components out of metal for the Arrow, which was that American plane, or the warplane that was built in Ontario. But he was a guy who made bits and pieces for it. He came out of Norway. On the side, he was building some boat. He decided he wanted to build more boats. I'm not sure if any of you guys have a Corvette. It's a centerboarder, That's the first boat he really got into. So here we have a furniture maker for custom boats. We have a guy who made metal parts for airplanes who wanted to build boats. We had more George Hinterol, refugee. He came wanted to build boats. He came from Holland. I had a good training in the theoretical things. We got together, and that became the company called C&C. 4, 5 individuals from different backgrounds, all dedicated to build boats, and part of my job was to produce the drawings, and they all started to look the same, and as fast as I could do it. And this company that started with 30, 40 people, in no time flat there were five companies, 250 people, and we were pulling out boats at the rate of, we went up to 600 a year. And that required a complete different way of thinking about boats. I got myself in the main plant as a plant engineer and development manager and all that. So having done 4 or 5 years of design work, I got into that end that produced the boats, which you own. And there was other ends of that one. The racing took on first in Ontario, but pretty soon we're doing nothing but racing boats for one-off people that went all over North America with them. And so I got involved in sailing in SORC in Florida, Great Lakes, the Mackinac races, well, all over the place. Out of a little job in Holland, here I am. And I would say, like, amongst you, quite a few people who both really bobbled along at the same road. You start with swimming, and before you know it, there's a lot of money in that big thing. But you know, it's fun. That's the way I always looked at it.